ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Nigerian government announces price increment for issuance of travel passports amid public concerns. CSOs and opposition parties in Togo call for installation of a new government after 100 days without a cabinet.
The outgoing government is managing day-to-day affairs. This means it can't make certain strategic decisions to move the country forward. And for us, it's not a good thing to wait indefinitely for the formation of a new government.
Former Executive Secretary of the Gambia's TRRC warns against actions capable of destabilizing the country.
The Public Order Act is a bad law. It has no place in our law books at this point in time. The law was used by a dictator to suppress dissent and to oppress his critics, including President Adama Barrow, at the time a member of the UDP. I think that the Public Order Act should be removed from our law books.
And in Chad, chloral epidemic causes 75 deaths near the border with Sudan. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners within and beyond the sub-region. We begin in Nigeria, where the federal government, through the Nigeria Immigration Service, has increased the fares for 32-page 5-year and 74-page 10-year travel passports. The Immigration Service now sets a new fee threshold for 32-page passports with 5-year validity at 100,000 naira and 64-page passports with 10-year validity at 200,000 naira. In a statement on Thursday, immigration spokesman A.S. Akinlabi said the renewed fees will take effect from September 1, 2025. WADR's Usma Omar reports from Abuja.
According to the statement, the application fees for Nigerian passports remain unchanged for Nigerians in the diaspora. The fees are set at $150 for a 32-page passport with a 5-year validity and $230 for a 64-page passport with a 10-year validity. In the statement, the Nigerian Immigration Service emphasized its commitment to balancing high-quality service delivery with the goal of making passport services accessible to all Nigerians. However, with Nigeria's unemployment rate at a new record high, the mass exodus of the country's youth, often referred to as the Japa phenomenon, has accelerated, particularly in the aftermath of COVID-19. Countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and various European nations are among the top destinations for Nigerian youths and the middle class who are relocating in search of better education, job opportunities, and security. According to 2023 data from the World Bank, Nigerians living abroad make up a substantial part of the global diaspora, contributing over $20 billion annually to Nigeria's economy. During one of his many remarks, Akinwumi Adesina, the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, expressed concern that this migration trend represents a significant loss for Nigeria and the African continent as a whole. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, several financial and military experts from across ECOWAS member states are meeting in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to define sustainable financing and to strengthen the operational capabilities of ECOWAS standby force. At the ongoing ceremony, which takes place from August 27 to the 29th, experts from Ministries of Finance and Defense of the member states are analyzing a detailed report presenting different opinions for resource mobilization, including adjustments to the community levy mechanism and strategies for recovering unpaid contributions from certain states. The ECOWAS standby force is a key instrument in the fight against terrorism and the prevention of political crisis in West Africa, as 3 Sahelian countries Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have withdrawn from the sub-regional organization. The Abuja meeting follows recommendations of the ECOWAS Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff in August 2024, where West African military leaders emphasized the need to strengthen intelligence cooperation and unite their efforts against terrorism and transnational organized crimes. Let's take you to the Gambia, where calm has returned to the capital after days of standoff between the police and protesters objecting the sudden increase in data subscription fees. Between last Friday and Monday this week, several demonstrators, including members of the youth movement Gambian Against Looted Assets Gala, were arrested. However, widespread denunciation has led to their release by the police while the charges against them remain. Similarly, former Executive Secretary of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, TRRC, Baba Jallow, a prominent figure in Gambian society, has written an open letter to President Adama Barrow, urging him to stop the crackdown on peaceful protesters, warning that repression heightens national instability. Christopher Teacher tells us more in this report.
In a span of 4 days, more than 44 Gambians were arrested by the police when they turned up to protest the data cost increment by the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, PURA. Omar Seibu Kamara, spokesperson for the Gambians Against Looted Assets Gala, shared with WADR that the protesters were subsequently released on Tuesday and Wednesday respectively after posting a $50,000 bond and a surety each. The protesters have not been told they have no further obligations and the charges continue to stand. Meanwhile, former Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission Executive Secretary Baba Jallow, in an open letter to President Adama Barrow, urged the president to cease the violent suppression of protesters, warning such repression could destabilize the country.
The Public Order Act is a bad law. It has no place in our law books at this point in time. The law was used by a dictator to suppress dissent and to oppress his critics, including President Adama Barrow, at the time a member of the UDP. I think that the Public Order Act should be removed from our law books, as well as other bad laws in the law books, so that we can move forward as a genuine and growing democracy.
Jallow asked the president to give immediate directives to the police and the judiciary to drop all charges against the protesters.
If that is done, the youths will feel respected. The president has already taken a step to form a committee to look into this tariff issue, and that is a very commendable move. I think it's a good thing that he has done that. But right now, the protesters have been granted bail, but they are not free. So the president should step in and just say, well, drop the charges, let these people go. Let's look forward to more engagements in the future.
The Gambia, gradually rebuilding from an authoritarian regime of former President Yahya Jammeh, is faced with growing concerns from citizens. These range from corruption, especially by state officials, to lack of accountability and abuse of power, among others.
Christopher Teacher Fight, that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The governments of Senegal and France reached an agreement on Wednesday to renew their cooperation based on a win-win partnership. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron also agreed to explore several sectors of the Senegalese society in this crucial moment. Health, IT, rail infrastructure, security, and defense cooperation were among the highlighted interests. Dakar engaged to Paris on these issues as it struggles domestically to keep its economy afloat. Threatened by armed groups' violence on its shared border with the Sahel, security was also on the agenda. Ibrahim Makan, an AU governance expert, tells WADR about the significance of the agreement between President Diomaye Faye and Emmanuel Macron.
The relationship between Senegal and France is a long relationship. More than 3 centuries, Senegal has always collaborated hand in hand with France. And that collaboration is still visible in the country because France remains one of the first Western countries that invest in Senegal. 2, Senegal is in a particular difficult situation at the moment because the public debt that Senegal owed to many institutions in the world have reached the level of 120% of our GDP. It's impossible for a country like Senegal at the moment to continue to think about developing its economy with that kind of debt. So Senegal needs support from those who can influence international organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union, and other institutions that have given Senegal, where Senegal has borrowed money, to really facilitate the payment. The third element, I think, there are many sectors that this new government wants to develop. The railway, for instance, the technology.
Ibrahim Khan is an AU governance expert. Still in Senegal, the Ministry of Family and Solidarity has introduced new measures to speed up compensation for victims of the 2024 pre-election crisis, with a particular focus on bereaved families. In a statement, the sector minister, Muna Njaid, announced that families of deceased victims will now receive an immediate payment of 10 million CFA francs, even before securing an inheritance judgment. According to the ministry, the simplified procedure follows recommendations from the Interministerial Committee handling the matter. Beneficiaries will need to present proof of filing for the judgment, along with an ID, death and cause of death certificates, a report signed by family members, and the power of Anthony naming 3 representatives. The ministry added that with these advances, it expects to finalize all assistance files for ex-detainees by the end of September 2025. Meanwhile, more than 100 days after Togo commenced the Fifth Republic with a new constitution, the country still lacks a government. Anxiety is growing among the opposition political parties and the general public. The Alliance of Democrats for Integral Development political party has expressed its concern and is urging the authorities to provide Togo with a government as soon as possible. Abdullahi Hassan has more in this following report.
Following the resignation of the previous government in May 2025, the Togolese people in the Fifth Republic are still waiting for a new administration. The opposition party, the Alliance of Democrats for Integral Development, ADI, expresses concern. Benjamin Amozovi is Secretary General of ADI.
The outgoing government is managing day-to-day affairs. This means it can't make certain strategic decisions to move the country forward. This could have a real impact on economic recovery and also slow down investment in the country. And for us, it's not a good thing to wait indefinitely for the formation of a new government, especially since we are entering the realm of your regimes. And since then, the regime hasn't been accompanied by the government. It's worrying.
And for the Socialist Pact for Renewal, PSR, the situation needs to be put into perspective. For the party, the country's functioning has not been interrupted despite the delay in the formation of a new government. Donation Awoso is a member of the PSR party.
But I wouldn't say that the presidency isn't moving forward. All this time, decisions have been made, meetings between ministers, and everything else has been happening. So I don't see the urgency for us to shout about where the government is falling behind. The time had come for the people to show their participation in the political sphere, that is, the republic. But well, they said to themselves, we prefer inaction to indifference. And now they are still shouting, where is the government? Do you see the dichotomy?
And in the face of criticism, the Minister of Civil Service, Gilbert Bawara, sought to reassure that the formation of the new government is not a matter of haste, but of rigor and responsibility. He emphasized in an interview with a local media outlet that President of the Council of Ministers, Foya Singbe, wants to take the necessary time to build a team that is, and I quote, solid, cohesive and capable of effectively responding to the country's challenges. For now, political actors and the population are awaiting concrete answers to the situation.
Sylvie with Raogol's report from Lomé, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Let's now take you to the Central Sahel region, particularly Mali, where more than 36,000 civil servants not enrolled in the country's integrated human resources management system will have their salaries temporarily suspended starting next September. According to the authorities, this measure aims to verify the real existence of government employees and to combat fictitious civil servants. Every year, Mali loses more than 48 billion CFA francs, or 4.57% of its payroll. Imo Edit completes the story.
According to the report of the Integrated Human Resources Management System, 122,000 out of more than 158,000 government employees were identified through physical and biometric checks. However, more than 36,000 other civil servants did not show up. Their annual salary is estimated at more than 48 billion CFA francs. The government has temporarily decided to stop paying salaries to these absentee civil servants. Payment may resume if they regularize their situation or if investigations reveal they are not fictitious workers. The Malian authorities say this operation is part of a reform aimed at cleaning up the civil service and optimizing government resources.
That's Imo Edit with the detail of WADR's Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham's report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The Nigerian government announces price increment for issuance of travel passports amid public concerns. CSOs and opposition parties in Togo call for installation of a new government after 100 days without a cabinet. Former Executive Secretary of the Gambia's TRRC warns against actions capable of destabilizing the country. Still ahead in Chad, cholera epidemic causes 75 deaths near the border with Sudan. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Ghana has dropped 6 places in the 2025 Global Peace Index, ranking 61 globally and falling outside the top 5 most peaceful countries in sub-Saharan Africa. This development raises concerns among citizens and experts from the security community. In their opinion, the findings show serve as a wake-up call for policymakers to protect the countries against any form of threat. From Accra, Nadidititi reports.
The 2025 Global Peace Index, released by the Institute for Economics and Peace, shows Ghana outside the region's top 5 for the first time in years. It now trails Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Madagascar. Globally, Iceland remains the most peaceful nation, with Ireland, New Zealand, Austria, and Switzerland completing the top 5. Security analyst Richard Gumado says Ghana's decline should not come as a shock.
If you look at the indicators they've always used for some of these assessments, it is clear that there are non-hotspots in our country where fighting is going on almost every time, and sophisticated weapons are being used. There have been a number of killings. Crime has gone up a little bit. We have not been able to resolve many of these crimes, and no prosecutions are achieved in that regard, and convictions have not been addressed properly. So anybody looking on, or international communities who are observing within our safety and security environment, they can attest to the fact that we've drifted off a little bit.
The report did not give exact reasons for Ghana's fall, but noted that half of sub-Saharan countries recorded deteriorations. Overall, global peacefulness has now declined for 6 straight years. Richard Gumado believes Ghana's authorities must act on the findings.
Security management is a continuous process, and I believe those making decisions for us, those in charge of political governance and security governance, are monitoring some of these reports, and they will work very hard to bring back Ghana to where it's supposed to be, or where we have been previously, so we can maintain the status quo.
The Global Peace Index assessed 163 countries, covering nearly the entire world's population. For WADR, Nadidititi, Accra.
Now, in Liberia, President Joseph Boakai has issued a clarion call to citizens residing in the diaspora to actively participate in the nation-building process through strategic economic interventions. During a formal meeting held at the Executive Mansion with U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock, President Boakai said Liberia is fertile and open for investments that will contribute to national advancement. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
During the meeting, President Joseph Boakai underscored the historical link between Liberia and the United States, highlighting the areas of investment in the country. He acknowledged the sustained support Liberia has received from both American entities and Liberians residing in the U.S.
We've had a lot of interest already been generated. We want to encourage. There's a lot that can be done here, and that's why we're going to the state to officially launch the diaspora. All of the resources outside that are with our brothers and sisters, especially in the United States, makes use of it here.
In response, the visiting Congressman Raphael Warnock reaffirmed the unwavering commitment of both the U.S. Senate Black Caucus and his affiliated church to Liberia.
I look forward to engaging you in my role as a member of the United States Senate in all the ways that we can be helpful there. We have a record number of black senators in the United States Senate, a whopping 4. We look forward to engaging you there.
Liberia is witnessing an upswing in diplomatic engagement as Senator Raphael Warnock's dedication arrives, marking the second U.S. congressional visit within the week. For observers, these efforts signal the strengthening of Liberia-U.S. relations following the America and 5 African Nations Summit in July. They however, urge transparency in all the engagements signed between the U.S. and Liberia during that summit and an earlier railway deal signed on July 9th with an American company, Ivanhoe Atlantic. The $1.8 billion deal would enable the construction of a Mika rail network for the transportation of iron ore from Guinea. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Now let's take you to Chad regarding some health matters as cholera epidemic has caused 75 deaths and reached the neighboring province of Sila on the border with Sudan. In July, the epidemic was declared in Chad, particularly in the Dogui refugee camp within the province of Wadr. Let's hear more from Sankule Janko.
According to the Provincial Response Committee, the Sila and Wadr provinces are currently hosting thousands of refugees fleeing the ongoing conflict in Darfur. In a note published on August 25, UNICEF reported 821 suspected cases and 58 deaths as of August 20 across 23 health zones in 6 districts. These include Chokoyan, Haja Hadid, Andre Frachana, and Amalayuna in Wadr province, as well as Abdi in Sila province. The case fatality rate was estimated at 6.8%. UNICEF attributes the surge in cases to the dire living conditions in refugee camps and host communities, where limited access to clean water and sanitation has facilitated the spread of disease. To bolster the national response, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, donated 30 tons of medicine to the Chadian government on August 23. The shipment, received by Acting Minister of Health Zara Mahamat Isa, aims to support efforts to combat the epidemic, which had already affected 776 people and caused 53 deaths at the time of delivery. Minister Mahamat Isa also announced that the Ministry of Health will shortly commence a vaccination campaign from September 2 to 8 across 5 health districts of Chad.
Sankule Janko fired that report.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Let's take you back to the Gambia, where the Former Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission Executive Secretary Baba Jallow has written an open letter to President Barrow urging him to stop the crackdown on peaceful protesters, warning that repression heightens national security and instability. Let's hear more as he spoke with our colleague Sankule Janko today?
Well, you know, the Public Order Act is a colonial law. It was passed in the Gambia and in other West African British colonies in the colonial period. The Gambian law was passed in 1961 and then amended in 1963, just as the country was going towards independence. Now, rather than repeal the law and remove it from the books, the law survived the Jawara era and survived the Jammeh era, and it's still in the book. So it's a bad law because what it does is not to promote democracy. It tries to stifle dissent. It tries to prevent genuine and peaceful protest. And that was the same reason that the law was passed by the colonial authorities. So obviously a colonial law in post-colonial Africa is a bad law. And you know, I must say it's not unique to Gambia. You know, Australia, Nigeria, Ghana still have these bad laws in their books. The colonial era public order acts that were enacted to control and restrict the freedoms of Africans are still being used in a post-colonial independent era to control and restrict the freedoms of an independent people.
Mr. Jallo, in your letter, you've warned that suppressing peaceful protests can lead to instability. What lessons do you believe President Barrow should learn from the past leaders in the Gambia, for example, President Jammeh?
Well, you know, the TRRC hearings were testimony that repression never pays. The story of Jammeh, like I indicated in the open letter, is ample testimony that it doesn't pay for a government to be repressive. It doesn't pay to arrest peaceful protesters or to suppress dissent in an emerging democracy. You know, I think that is the main lesson that I want the president to take away. One, that it doesn't pay to do that, to arrest peaceful protesters. Two, suppression or repression of dissent and peaceful expressions of dissatisfaction with any aspect of a society is not the right way to go. I think that the Gambia's democracy at this point should be mature enough able to engage peaceful protesters in a very orderly and intelligent fashion and to diffuse and manage a potential crisis. But if you send the police, if he sends police, or if the police decide to go because the law is still in the books and go and arrest peaceful protesters, what it does is not to manage a crisis. It actually escalates the crisis and could potentially lead to more crises.
Mr. Jallo, you've called on President Barrow to personally intervene, and we've seen latest development is that the original protesters have been granted bail, and the other protesters as well, all the protesters have now been granted bail. But what concrete steps do you expect the president to take immediately to diffuse the current crisis that is happening?
A good step that the president can take is simply to call the police or the judiciary and say, drop the charges, let's forget about this case and move on as a nation. I think that would be the most sensible thing, the most intelligent thing to do. But if that is done, the youths will feel respected. The president has already taken a step to form a committee to look into this tariff issue, and that is a very commendable move. I think it's a good thing that he has done that. But right now, the youths, the protesters have been granted bail, but they are not free. So the president should step in and just say, well, drop the charges, let these people go.
Baba Jallo is the former executive secretary of the Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. Now in the world of sports, two proud nations, two contrasting journeys, and one final change at CHAN 2024 glory when Sudan and Senegal walk out at the Mandela National Stadium in Kampala on Friday evening. The stakes will be about more than just a bronze medal for both sides. This match is about redemption, pride, and leaving behind a legacy after weeks of toil in the Total Energies African Nations Championship, Pamoja 2024. And that's the latest in the world of sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Falilu So and Ismaila Kamara for the technical assistance. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinion.